Hello, listener. I'm glad you found us. My name is Jason.
Hey, listener.
I'm joined by...
Hello, listen.
This is where you announce yourself.
Sean Hayes.
Sean, be more assertive about it. Get them excited to meet you.
I'm Sean Hayes.
Will, tell them who you are.
My name's Will Arnett, and I'm originally from Toronto, Taurus, and we're doing a podcast, and we're having a lot of fun with my friends. So come on and join us with your ears.
Oh, God.
Welcome to SmartLess.
SmartLess.
Hey, you know how I always like to start out with a little story?
Oh, sorry.
Can I share?
Did you prepare today? You must have. It's his
I
guest.
I didn't really prepare.
He's got chatter.
No, well, first of all, I missed last night. Did I miss anything major?
We missed you.
That's sweet.
Listener, usually the three of us get together on Sunday nights over at a friend's house, and Sean has family in town this weekend, so he did not join us when you were
correct.
missed.
That is correct. So they left this morning. That was sad to see them go. But yeah, that's why I couldn't go last night. It was just too many people. It was too chaotic, and everybody just wanted to chill out here. So nobody wanted to get up and.
How did that chill out go?
Yeah, was it a good chill out?
Good. Well, I tried to get. I introduced two of my nieces to one of my favorite movies, Tootsie, and they wanted nothing to do with it.
Really?
Yeah. You know what? It's really depressing.
It's
I
such a
show
good
some
show.
stuff to Franny, my 15-year-old, and she just. It's just not nothing's any good.
I know, because it's got to be like louder, faster, funnier.
I
Go,
tried
go, go.
I tried Fletch last year, and they were kind of like, yeah. And I was like,
Oh, really?
this is an all-time.
Yeah, I know.
No, I get it. Like try Stripes or something like that, or Meatballs, and it's just doesn't work anymore.
I don't know why. It's still
Well,
funny.
I mean, Sean, you had his attention at Meatballs.
Always. By the way, you think, Will, for the second day in a row, I'm not kidding, I had leftover spaghetti and another tuna fish sandwich. I had it 2 days in a row.
When are you going to turn into 375?
I'm on my way. But wait, I did want to say this.
Yeah.
So, as you know, you saw, I got this new electric car, right?
Yep.
And it's an Audi. It's really great. You barely press on the it's not gas.
It's an
'cause
accelerator.
electric. Yeah, the accelerator, and you just fucking go like a roller coaster. But so we have this, as you know, this tiny gate in front of our house that I'm looking at right now. And it's kind of unnecessary. Like anybody could
Your
jump
gate,
over it.
by the way, I've been meaning to say this for a few years. I'm not kidding. Your gate is so unnecessary.
It's like knee height, right?
It's so dumb.
It only
Talk
goes up
about
to the knees.
375.
Your gate is the dumbest.
It is dumb. It is so dumb. But you could hop over it. But whatever, you guys know
A
that.
dachshund could hop over it.
Exactly. It's true, a little hot dog. So wait, so the gate opens. So when you pull up to it, the gate opens
Stop
automatically.
calling it a gate.
Okay, so the door, the trap opens up, and it stays open for like a minute or so, right? Okay, so
Sure.
So for some reason, Scotty, I think for security reasons, I don't know, he recalibrated it to only open for 10 seconds. This is true, and so I don't know, for security or whatever. So I'm pulling out of my driveway yesterday, and the gate opens, and just as I'm about to leave, I forgot my phone. So I stop the car, I jump out, and as I'm heading back into the house, I hear. It completely scraped the entire side of my car.
Of the new car?
Of the brand new car.
No.
Fucking Scotty.
Yeah, I know. That's it. That was the last
By the
straw.
way,
Oh.
I don't want to blame Scotty for this, but this is what he's spending his time doing, recalibrating the knee-high gate?
Well, listen, you get one too many hot dogs in there, and
You did. You guys got
and
one
start
got overrun by dachshunds, right? Didn't you have an attack of dachshunds? A pack of them surrounded the house.
it's just a corgi. It's the caravan of corgis.
Oh, Sean, that's
I
a
know.
bummer.
I know. But and then
Are you going to fix it, or are you going to just drive
yeah,
around
he
with
changed it back. He was like, because it happened.
No, the car.
That was no. We're going to change the gate to stay open for a little bit. But that was like a couple days ago, and then the next day, I literally was pulling out, and some guy was standing on the sidewalk, and I couldn't move fast enough, and I was like freaking out. I was like, "Oh my god, I have like 3 seconds!" So I gunned it backwards, and then I was like, Scotty's like, "What's the problem?" I'm like, "It's got to fucking stay open longer than." So he put it back.
Why don't you don't have like an eye on there that can sense?
Yes,
if
but
there's
it's
a
on the
car?
other side. It's on the other side.
What
It's
is
on the-
happening at your house,
know.
Sean? This is a disaster. By the way, nobody's going to be more upset about the dented car than the valet guys at Koi. They're going to be so. When
We went there last night.
Of course
Did you really?
My sister loves it. Tracy loves it.
Oh.
Sean, what happened? Oh,
I know.
no.
And then I was like, I left it totally normal and you guys banged it up. All right, so let's get to our guest. This man, guys, I'm so excited. He's an icon. He really is an icon. He's responsible for many, many of the laughs you have experienced throughout your life.
Jerry Lewis.
That's right. He's actually
I've been looking to blame somebody for my laugh, so I'm glad.
he's actually from Los Angeles, which I keep forgetting, but he really kind of grew up in New York. One of his earliest jobs was an assistant stage manager for a play adaptation of the novella Breakfast at Tiffany's. Let's just say that production didn't rocket him into success immediately, but it did, however, introduce him to Mary Tyler Moore, which would prove to be very valuable later. He continued as a stage manager and then went on directing plays.
This is Jimmy
and then
Burrows.
Years later,
Jimmy Burrows.
he
Is this Jimmy Burrows?
co-created this little thing called Cheers. Anyway, he's a legend. Everyone knows
What?
his name. I referred to him as my television father. He's directed every episode of Will and
No,
Grace.
he's mine. You
Jimmy
can't
Burrows.
have him.
It's none
He's
other than
mine.
my dad who didn't leave me, James
Oh,
Burrows.
listener, you're in for a
Yes.
treat. There he is.
Jimmy!
Oh,
Look at Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Oh my God.
Was that? He just put tape on his nose.
I can't believe 3 of my actors.
Yeah.
This is it.
Well, I'm sorry, actors in quotes.
That's
Wait,
exactly right.
what's my nickname is,
Bait hound.
and Sean's nickname is
B story.
Shawnee or Shawnee.
Or Shawnee.
Shawnee.
And what does Will have one?
Willie.
Sweet, sweet Willie.
Wait,
I
what
love
was yours,
Willie.
Jason? What is yours, Jason?
Bait hound. I don't know where it came from, but I love it.
I don't know either. There's only 2 people who have hound. You and Courtney Cox. She's court hound.
Court.
Is she really? That's hysterical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to mention it at the end too, but I want to but I want to mention it now as well.
Spit it
With
out,
this-
honey.
I know. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Oh my God!
Walk through the door.
It's like
Come through the door.
rehearsal with Jimmy.
I'm so nervous. I'm so excited. You have this new gigantic book that's out now that's called Directed by James Burrows, 5 decades of stories from the legendary director of Taxi, Cheers, Frasier, Friends, Will and Grace, and tons more.
Chicago Suns.
Chicago Sun's in there too?
Yeah, Chicago Suns is mentioned. Yes.
What's
yeah.
Chicago Suns?
Absolutely.
Chicago Suns is this little sprint I did with D.W. Moffat and David Krumholtz.
Paula Marshall, who
Paula
was
Marshall,
your love interest.
the greatest.
I
Wow.
remember that. I remember that show.
Yeah, it was on for half a season on NBC, right? We
Yeah.
played 3 brothers that lived right behind Wrigley Field, and we had a
Yes.
beautiful translate on that, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, Sean. You're going to tell the listener how lucky they are to be listening.
This
to
is
Right.
so
like-
incredible. Yeah.
Right. So that is exactly what I was going to do. I know so many things about you. We all have known you, worked with you, loved you for a very long time. We've spent much time over the years, socially and professionally. I consider you family. But what I'm excited about today is I get to ask you questions that if I was at your house asking you them, you'd probably tell me to shut the hell up. But now I get to corner you. So we all know so many things about you.
You've
but
never been at my house.
Yeah. You haven't been at the nice one.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
make it past that gate. That's
Yeah.
an actual
Yeah.
gate. No, I know so many things about you, but my sister Tracy doesn't, which means other people may not know. But all the shows that you've sprinkled your kind of magic dust on and made hits by directing them, I mentioned them some already, but Mary Tyler Moore, Taxi, Cheers, Will and Grace, worth mentioning again, The Hogan Family, Frasier, 2.5 Men, The Big Bang Theory, and on and on. And sidebar, you own a lot of that part of those shows. So I want to start out with the fact that it blows people's minds when I reveal to them not only all you've accomplished in your life, but I also love seeing them light up when I mention your father was Abe Burrows, who, amongst many other great things, wrote Guys and Dolls, won the Pulitzer Prize for How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, both massive, gigantic, massive hits on Broadway. Your father was so deeply rooted in show business from radio to theater to television. What was that like for you as a kid? To be surrounded by all that, like, was it thrilling for you, or was it kind of like just what Dad did, so you felt you needed to do it, or did you want to do it?
Wow, Sean, this is the first time you've learned a monologue and said it perfectly.
Without cards. Yeah.
And I had a stopper. I had a time stopper.
But all the hand gestures were there. Don't worry about it. He was my father, so this was my father's business. He would, write on a yellow legal pad when he wrote, and he would go put on a suit and a tie to direct, and a trilby hat.
Oh,
He had
wow.
a hat on, and he would go down and he would trundle my sister and I occasionally down there, and we would kind of, sit in the back. I had no idea what was going on, not a clue.
You didn't. How old were you? Like when you first were like, wow, this is.
When I first went, I saw Guys and Dolls when I was 11. That was 1951. So I remember seeing that. That was the first show I had seen that my father did. I had seen before. My mom took me to see Where's Charlie. I mean, I know you guys were not born yet when these were up on Broadway, and I'm not sure you're all born still. So
I'm still cooking.
yeah, I know. So I had no desire to go into show business because my dad was a legend in New York City.
That's wild.
And there was just no way I was going to be in the theater at all. It was just too daunting.
And then what happened?
Yeah, what did you think you were going to do?
Well, I was a government major at Oberlin College.
Really?
Yeah, my thesis was on gerrymandering.
Really?
How about that? Yeah.
Wow. God,
Well-
we could use you now.
Well,
I know.
we figured it all out now. Yeah, it's all fixed.
Yeah, we got it done.
Wow.
And then when I graduated Oberlin, was the Vietnam War time. So I applied to the Yale School of Drama to kind of defer, because we all had to take physicals. You could defer your physical. So at 21, I went to the Yale School of Drama for 3 years.
To be an actor, like to.
No, I was a playwright, believe it or not, Sean.
Wow.
Me who would sacrifice any character for a joke. And
But Jimmy, I don't think my character would. Shut up! It's funny.
Yeah.
go faster.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I had a class in directing with a professor named Nikos Sakharopoulos, who founded the Williamstown Theater, and he kind of showed me what directing was. I had no idea because I watched my father, and I had just no idea. And after I got out of Yale School of Drama, I did have to go take a physical, which I failed, which was lucky enough for the U.S. Army. And then
What was wrong with you?
I was too funny.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna distract the
have
troops. Get them out of
I
here.
was going to make them laugh instead of make them shoot, I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then so I started working in the business. I started driving a truck on a summer stock tour that went to the different music tents. I would load the scenery at the end of the performance on Saturday night and drive it so they could open the show in a new venue on Monday night. And then I stage managed for a bit and then directed in summer stock. And then I at one point wrote a letter to Mary Tyler Moore.
What was your first
That's crazy.
TV directing gig?
The Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1974.
And how many seasons were they into that by then?
That was the 4th season.
Okay.
So
And
when
when they
you
taught
said you
you-
wrote a letter, I mean, how
Let's
did
back up. Let's back up to Jason's line. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
exactly.
Yeah, we'll overlap.
Directing the podcast.
When you're at Yale and you took the directing class, when you didn't know what directing was, what did they teach you that directing was? What did you come out of there with, like the basic of like, oh, that's what they do for Tracy?
I had no idea what a director did, literally. My mind was elsewhere when I was watching my dad. He wrote and directed at the same time. So, he would chatter and everything like that. But then I kind of got it because I was in a couple of productions at Yale as a supernumerary in the background. And there was, crafting how it looked and everything like that.
But what would you say if Tracy, Sean's sister, said, "Well, wait, what is it? What does a director do? What do you do to help, it all happen?"
Well, I'd like to think of myself as a guy in a lifeboat with a group of people with me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of the captain of the lifeboat, and it's my job to get a performance in that lifeboat of the show with the emotions of the characters plus the laughs, and letting people realize that I will protect them in the lifeboat. the way I am, as you guys know, is I'm not a Arnett. I'm kind of a nice, sweet guy who happens to be funny, and I like to have all the actors behave that way, and all the actors react that way, and be in this lifeboat together with me, and because we're all in this boat, we're all rowing, and so I kind of got that from watching Nico. So he was much more concerned with how it looked and where extra supernumeraries had to be and everything like that. But when he worked with the actors, I kind of saw the light.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because how old were you when you were a stage manager on Broadway?
26.
Wow. So at that point, you've been around like nutty actors and actresses your entire life. You must have honed your skills pretty early in how to communicate with them and know what their needs are and knowing how to quiet down the crazy or whatever, right?
I guess so. I was a stage manager on Breakfast at Tiffany's, which you mentioned,
Yes.
which had Mary Tyler Moore, Richard Chamberlain, and Sally Kellerman, who were 3 actors from California that were doing their first Broadway show.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I was in charge of them. In other words, I had to make sure that they knew what side of the stage to enter during a performance, where to come off. I made sure they had lunch. I made sure they had dinner. I made sure they were on time for, I was literally their shepherd.
Yeah.
And so again, I wasn't involved emotionally in how the show was shaped or anything like that. I was just responsible for those 3 people and making their life easier. And, I'm a kind of nice, guy. And,
Yeah.
So they liked me and I liked them. And it was, luckily enough, as I said, one of the stars was Mary Tyler Moore, and that just led to my career.
So when you go into directing multi-camera television, which for the listener, that's the stuff in front of a live audience, and you hear the laughter and all that stuff. So it is basically, you could be described as filmed theater.
Right.
Did you approach it as that, like your love for theater? Did you just kind of start directing these things as just, well, we're just going to film this stage production since it's all kind of proscenium, or did you incorporate the camera into it all and create it as something different?
It was all about filming a play.
Yeah.
That, I spent 5 months learning the cameras. I sat in the stands and watched my mentor, Jay Sandrich, and Alan Rafkin, and Peter Bonners was directing then. And I watched Michael Zinberg. I watched
Peter
them.
Bonners was directing before you?
Yeah, oh yeah. He was directed on the Newhart show.
Wow.
And wasn't it true, Jimmy, that they used to do you have 3 cameras and you were one of the first, if not the first, to add a 4th camera?
Yeah, we, on Mary and Newhart, they used 3 cameras, and Rhoda and Paul Sand, they all had 3 cameras, except if the show had an inordinate amount of people, and then they brought a 4th camera in. But Taxi was really the first show to have 4 cameras permanently, because they were all rolling film. 4 cameras rolling film simultaneously gets expensive.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because you use one shot from one camera at any one moment. And then when digital cards came out, it became a lot easier to go back and reshoot and everything like that.
But you didn't have monitors back then either
No,
for a
no
long
monitor.
time. When did the monitor first come in that you could actually see what you were shooting, what all 4 cameras were shooting?
That wasn't until like the late 80s, early 90s.
No, even on tape shows. When I did the Betty White show, believe it or not, this is when she was an actress with John Hillerman, and Charlie Cipher, who played her stunt double. There was a series created at MTM, and they had video cameras, so I had 4 video monitors.
Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
but I didn't have film until like the 6th or 7th year of Cheers. There were no film. They hadn't figured out how to put a monitor in a film camera.
So you're standing on the floor watching all the cameras, and again, like Jason says, just for Tracy, most TV comedies are what we call a single cam, which look more like a movie. And you like The Office or whatever, all these kinds of shows.
You break the fourth wall.
Yeah, but the shows that we're talking about that had these multicams are all the great classic shows, like
Seinfeld,
Cheers
Friends,
and
Frasier.
Seinfeld and Friends.
The camera never gets up into the set.
Right, and of course, every time you mention any of these shows, most of them are Jimmy directed.
Burrows.
At least the whole series
It's kinda
or the
crazy.
pilot. It's freaking crazy. And so you're down there on the floor. My recollection, even once you had monitors, I mean, Jimmy, on tape nights, you're never standing in front of the monitor. You're standing on the floor next to the cameras, walking back and forth between the cameras, kicking cameras in one direction.
Yeah.
or another.
Imagining what they're seeing. He can't.
Yeah.
He can't. There's no
Yeah.
proof because there were no monitors.
There were no monitor, but you could tell if one of those film cameras is kind of pointed down a little bit, they're in a wide shot. If it's up, they're in a tight shot because they're more level with the actor's face. So I could kind of tell that, but for me, being with my actors was more important than if I missed a shot. It was
Right.
important for me on any show I do, and I still do it. I never go to Video Village. Where Video Village is where all the monitors are, where all the writers, and they hang out outside a shot. They watch these monitors, and they're the first to tell you when they see a boom shadow or anything like that. But I'm always, be it the Millers or Chicago Suns or Will and Grace, I'm always on the floor with my actors because to me, they're my cherished human beings. So, but I can, and sometimes I don't watch them because they're mugging too much, but I always will listen. I'll always listen to the dialogue. And I will always try, if an actor on the way to a joke screws up the line, I will always jump in and scream, bop, 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 bop,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that the audience doesn't hear the joke the wrong way, because humor is 90% surprise. And if they hear it the right way, the laugh will be 3 times as large.
Yeah, let me
Yes,
explain that
that's
again
right.
for Tracy, just to be clear. It's such an interesting thing, and I remember experiencing firsthand the first time, and it's such a joy, would be you're doing a scene, and then I go up or somebody goes up and there's like a little bit of a flub and Jimmy can tell that it's right before the joke is coming in, the punchline. And he can tell that the audience isn't going to get the full effect of the joke. And Jimmy will jump in as full audience. He'll go, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah.
And everybody stops and the audience is like, what the
Well, you can
stop?
also tell that the actor's about to lose it. Right?
About to
And
lose
not
it, right.
panic.
Yeah. And
it's
you guys
really
all know
cool.
that feeling of, you've been there with Jimmy
Yeah, the
doing that.
first
and-
time I was like 28 years old and I'm like about to screw up a line and Jimmy goes, bop, 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 bop. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? Did I do something wrong? I thought I was in so much trouble.
And what he's doing is he's protecting the audience and he's protecting you. He's giving you a chance to get it right the first time. And Jimmy, you're so right. I'm such a big proponent of that too. So much of comedy is surprise. And the people who make all of us laugh are people who have that element of surprise that you never know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And we will be right back.
We are supported by Nationwide Pet Insurance. Leaving your pet can be hard for many of us. I know it is for me. That's why our friends at Nationwide Pet Insurance are providing us with tips to help pets and us cope with change. When I'm gone for a long stretch of time like I am now, I get worried. I have stress, I have anxiety about Ricky. And if I have it, I'm sure he has it. So we both kind of, because it's kind of a disruption to both of our lives and our routines. Because, changes, both big and small, can be challenging for our pets. They are used to routines and feeding times, going to bed and bathroom schedule, like all of that is routine for them. And once that's interrupted, if you have a pet, that can be kind of stressful. So one of the things you can do is help your pet cope with change by introducing new routines early, practicing short departures daily, or keeping them engaged throughout the day with food puzzles or like automatic feeders, anything you can think of like that. Here's one thing you can do also. Worry about one less thing when you protect your pet with Nationwide Pet Insurance. Nationwide members get reimbursed for unexpected expenses related to injuries, illnesses, and more. Build a custom plan for your pet's needs at petinsurance.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Thanks to Native for their support. I love the sun this time of year, listener, but when it comes to protecting my skin from it, that's a whole other story. Some sunscreens always leave me sticky or greasy after applying, but thanks to Native sunscreen, boy, I get both face and body protection that's lightweight and doesn't leave me feeling sticky or greasy. Who likes it? I don't. Show me someone who does, and I'll show you that's a friend you no longer need. Okay? Because they're weird. With Native, you get broad-spectrum SPF 30 mineral sunscreens that don't leave a heavy, greasy sunscreen feel. Native offers lightweight, non-greasy formulas that are easy to spread and blend seamlessly on all skin tones, leaving a matte finish with 0 streaks. Get the scents of summer like coconut and pineapple, rosé, or for those with sensitive skin, try unscented. All Native sunscreen is made from plant and mineral-based ingredients like naturally derived non-nano zinc oxide. Native has your back with face and body formulas. Native's face sunscreen is made with avocado oil, and their body sunscreen contains vitamin E. So there's that, you know? So my experience with Native products is great. I'm not sunburned, and I'm not feeling sticky or greasy. Those are the things you're looking for. No sunburn, no sticky, no greasy, me likey. Protect your skin with Native's mineral-based sunscreens. Go to nativedeo.com/smartless or use promo code SmartLess at checkout to get 20% off your first order. That's nativedeo.com/smartless or use promo code SmartLess.
SmartLess is supported by Liquid IV. So one of my daily routines is, and not always daily, but almost daily, is working out. And then when you do that on top of the fact that it's hot and sweaty and humid outside, there's a lot of dehydration going on. And, you know, the hot summer months are here, and we need to be proactive about keeping our bodies fueled and hydrated. Making hydration a priority can help us feel healthier in our everyday lives. 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. Plus, Liquid IV products taste great with 10 refreshing flavors like Concord Grape, Lemon Lime, Pina Colada, and Tropical Punch. Sounds like summer, doesn't it? My favorite flavor is Tropical Punch because it really, really tastes like tropical punch. Like you put it in the water, you squirt it around, and it really feels like, oh, wow, this tastes like when you were a kid and you're drinking tropical punch. It's delicious. Liquid IV is on a mission to change the world. For every purchase, they donate a serving to someone in need. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 24 million servings globally. Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code SmartLess at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code SmartLess at liquidiv.com.
And now back to the show.
You know, you once said to me a long time ago about making a hit TV show, you said, it's actually really simple. You just got to hire funny people, period. And I was kind of blown away by that. And so why do you think that that's so easy to say, but so hard for networks and studios to execute?
Because there are only so many funny people.
That's interesting.
Well, but what would you rather have a perfect sitcom script? In other words, all the jokes are like just bulletproof, like anybody can get a laugh at these. Or would you rather have kind of like a double, right? Not a home run, but actors that can perform funny. They can create characters that are just kind of entertaining and fun to watch anyway, and then the fun dialogue is kind of a plus. Like, do you know what I mean? There's sort of, what is more valuable, a great script or great actors? I guess that's hard.
Well, to start with, a great script is more valuable.
But bad actors can screw that up, right?
Yeah, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a few times in my career where I've read perfect scripts, like Cheers was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. The Friends script, 95% of what was on the page that I read is on that screen.
Mm. For the pilot of Friends.
For the pilot of Friends and Will and Grace. And, I want to take a great script and make it better. Mm-hmm. I can take a good script and make it very good, but that's smoke and mirrors.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You need to be lucky enough to have a great script, a great cast, and the right time slot.
Mm.
Speaking of a great cast, Jimmy, I want you to. I remember you've told this story before. We all know, but you did the Friends pilot. God, I remember that pilot. I don't know if you guys do. I remember reading that pilot in New York and going in and auditioning for it and not being called.
Did you get it?
I'm waiting. My phone, I did change numbers, so there's a chance.
I killed you. I killed you.
Jimmy killed me. He got my
Yeah.
tape and he threw it in the trash.
Yeah. You were not right for Rachel.
I was, but I could have had a signature haircut. But anyway, so I go, so Jimmy, you do that pilot, like you said, 95% of it is out there, and you had the perfect cast for the perfect show. And I remember you telling me the story about you took them to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
What was that story?
In the third week or the fourth week, I went to Warner Brothers and I said, I think this show is really special. Can you give me the plane to take these 6 people to Las Vegas? I want to take them to dinner. They were reluctant to give me the plane, so we walked. But so they did give me the plane. I took them to Vegas. I took them to dinner at Spago in Caesar's Palace. We had a big round table. I was there with the 6 of them, all greenhorns. A little experience here and there. Schwimmer had done a Monty before, and J.A. was in. She was in Muddling Through, and Courtney had been on Family Ties, but really kind of green. And I literally said, and I know it was incredibly prophetic, but I had no idea at the time. I said, this trip to Vegas, walking around this casino, is your last shot at anonymity. Mm-hmm. You will never be able to walk through a casino or anywhere without being mauled.
Wow.
And
it's 100% true.
Yeah, that was, and then they had no money. So I gave them each $200 and they gambled. And fun. We had a great time. We came back and, the rest is history.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they turned it into $500 million. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, those are good odds they had.
Sidebar, right? Just sidebar Vegas story. Jimmy, you knew my mom. And
right.
I took her to this really, really, really fancy restaurant in Vegas one time, and she always kind of thought she had to put on airs when we were around, because we didn't grow up with any money. So we were at this really fancy restaurant, and the waiter comes by, he's in a tuxedo, and he goes, and she had her friends there with her too, and the waiter goes, "Can I start you off with something to drink?" And she goes, "I'll have a White Zinfandel, please." And he goes, "Okay," and he's just about to walk away. She goes, "Excuse me." He goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Can you put some ice in that, please?" It was like a spa. It was like a 5-star restaurant. I was like, ice in a White Zinfandel. But anyway, that's such a cool story.
I miss your mom, honey.
I know, me too. I don't know where she is. She hasn't returned my calls.
Well, you should keep an eye on her. Hey,
Oh, Will. Oh. Somebody move the bar down. Somebody lower the bar.
I'm just saying.
But wait a minute.
I gotta stay consistent.
Jimmy, back up. You did that with us too, by the way, which was so great. You took us to San Francisco at the beginning of Will and Grace. How do you know? How do you know before anybody else knows?
Yeah, you never took me anywhere on any of the shows you did that I was in.
Well,
he must have smelled
think
something
of the
coming.
show, honey.
Yeah.
You were 15 on the Hogan Family, so where are we going to go? Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say...
He could have driven me out to Laughlin or something,
That's hysterical. But Jimmy, also you told me once when you got the script for Cheers, and you tell me, I'm going to get it wrong, so please just jump in. But I think you said something like you called the Charles brothers who wrote it, and you said, "Thank you for bringing radio to TV," meaning it was all about the words. You almost didn't even have to look at it because it was so well written or something like that.
It was. That's exactly my quote. I said, you brought radio back to television.
Which one was this? This was
Cheers.
in Taxi.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
But you'd known them. You'd met them on Taxi, yeah?
We met on Taxi, yeah. We when we came up with the idea of a bar, we spent a lot of time in bars just researching. Mm-hmm. And we would sit.
That's what I called it, too.
And we'd order, believe it or not, I ordered a White Zinfandel with ice.
Sure, of course. This is incredibly ironic.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
Yeah, I do believe it. It turns out it's a very popular drink.
And we would sit there and we would just listen. They had no idea who we were. And so all that stuff, in fact, in the pilot, the What's the Sweatiest Movie Ever Made, that run comes from when we were in our office outside the Paramount Commissary. we heard two people talking about the sweatiest movie ever made.
The sweatiest movie.
Yeah, yeah. So, it was. Sean, you asked me how I know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
it seems like you do.
I knew from the run through of Cheers how good that show would be, because we always did a run through on all my shows. We do an audience run through 3 days before we shoot, just to see if we got a piece of shit or we got a piece of turd. Right. And the audience comes in. I have one camera covering the action. We did it on the Millers. We did it on Chicago Suns, and from that you get a sense of what the audience is going to react to it. And I remember on Cheers, when Georgie entered, and people went, Norm, and Sam said, what do you know? And Norm said, not enough. It was never written as a joke.
Oh, really?
No, it was not a joke.
Hey, what do you know? Not enough? That's historical.
Not enough. And because of the person saying it and how he looked, and a guy like that in a bar, it all gelled to become this huge laugh and made the writer's life miserable, because every time he entered, they had to come up with a new normism.
Yeah.
You're right, of course.
How much of when you're casting these incredible ensembles like Friends or Cheers and the other shows that you've done, I mean, your batting average must be incredible. And how do you know? Do you know when you see someone like George Wendt come in? Are you making a calculation that, okay, I know the dialogue this guy's going to have to say, the combination of how he comes across, what his natural sort of communication thing is with these, like, is it that? Are you trying to figure out a puzzle there, or are you just going on instinct? This is a great guy, he's funny, it'll work.
Well, the way the character of Norm was written, George is the perfect person to play that. He looks like he's had a few beers. He never gets off a bar stool. He's dry, which that character was. So again, we took a great part, put a great actor in it, and it took off. You take a great part and put a kind of good actor in it, it's not going to be as effective. So,
right.
He must have loved his blocking, George Wendt.
Oh my God.
His blocking is like where he stands and sits and stuff. All he did was sit on the chair.
Did he at any point say, all right, it looks like I'm going to be sitting on this bar stool for a long time? Did he ever talk to the set dressers or anything about making that seat a little bit cushier or a little bit more support? Or did him or John Ratzenberger ever get involved with any of that stuff?
No, George said he could file if he had hemorrhoids. It would be he could get paid.
Your fault.
By the way, George Wendt, Jason Sudeikis' uncle.
I know.
That's right.
His mom's brother.
That's
crazy. Georgie was he was great, and in the book I talk about the fact that Norm's seat where he sat, he's got a long hall to get to that seat.
Yeah.
Normally, he would walk in the bar and I would put him in the first seat he came to. But the fact was, Diane was there in the show. She enters and she has to be there closer to the door because she's waiting for her fiance to come with the ring. So it forced me to take George all the way across. So it made the normisms have to be a little longer, and so to get him around there.
But it ended up being such an important part of that character, because every time you see him kind of
shuffling
exhaustingly kind of shuffle in, it just sets up, it's like this declaration of.
But isn't that amazing? Like, it's almost like Jason goes back to your original question, like, what would you say, like, what do you do? What is directing? Well, here you've got a puzzle, right? You've got an actor who's sitting on one end, you've got to bring another actor in, and you got to figure out a way to make it interesting and funny and on story, and bring him across and get him into a different spot. It's a lot of shit to think about.
Yeah.
Willie, on the pilot of The Millers.
Yeah.
The most important thing for me was in that scene between your mother and father. When they're talking about sex, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Was to put you in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I sure do. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because that's where the reactions have to be.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's not funny if they're both on both on one side of the stage and you're on the other side, because you're reacting only one way. So to figure out that puzzle, it was, it was obvious to me that you had to be in the middle from your between your father and your mother, because that's where the laughs were.
I love
And that
that.
was you were so friggin' funny in that moment.
Oh, thanks,
You
man.
were God.
I love
Then
that.
there's
Yeah.
then there's
hysterical.
another puzzle you got to figure out with the wing cameras there. If he's in the middle and they're bookending him, you don't want him You don't want him in both two shots, right? So like you got to decide who's going to be in the single, who's going to be in the two shot. Your work doesn't stop.
Well, there were three singles there because they were far enough apart.
Oh, okay.
That was the greatest thrill for me. So I was under contract doing a show at NBC, and then my agent said I wasn't really supposed to take a meeting with Jimmy and Greg Garcia, our friend, the great Greg Garcia, who I love to death. And so they said, well, Greg Garcia and Jimmy Burrows might be at our office, and if you run into them there, it's not a meeting. And I said, that's true. So they left it. They literally told me what office they were in, and then it was kind of like and then we talked about doing the Millers, and that's how that went down. And it was such a thrill for me, man.
I remember Jimmy in the pilot of Will and Grace, since we're talking about pilots, my character Jack comes in with a bird cage and all of this luggage. Guapo. Oh my God, I didn't even remember that. By the way, your memory is
I know it's intense.
But so I come in with this bird cage, it's covered bird cage and luggage, and the joke is it's a runner through the pilot where I'm going to keep moving in, and Will says, not tonight. I'm like, oh God, okay, come back tomorrow, whatever the thing is. And Jimmy said, when I got really upset with Will, I would shake all the luggage and the bird cage, and I would become very physical. And Jimmy goes, wait, stop. And he goes over to props and he goes, you got any bird feathers or anything? And the guy goes, yeah, I can muster something up. He throws the bird feathers in the cage, so when I shake them, all the feathers come out.
Every time.
Every time, like I'm throwing the bird around. It was so funny. And then I was like, how do you think of shit like that? It was so hilarious.
He will give you a prop that will make everything come together. It'll be the perfect stitch between the script and the performance. This one little thing he'll pick up on a desk and put it in your hand, and
it was
say, play with this when you're saying that line.
Speaking of that, Mr. B, is there comedy in your future, or is that skill gone?
I know. I keep telling Jimmy. I keep saying the same thing to him. I'm like, "What are you doing?
What are you doing? You're killing people.
You're the funniest.
You're literally killing people.
Stop killing people."
I'm ready. What
are you doing?
I'm ready. Well, I'm ready.
We've seen enough of your dark side.
I know the blue money laundering.
Oh, Jimmy, you should have seen him on the 16th green today. He was so dark. He made me putt out a 2-footer, and I thought he gave me the putt, and he gave it to our buddy Dan, and I picked up, and he goes, "Not you," and he made me go back and putt
I said, "Put it back down."
He did.
Oh, Jesus.
And I said, Karma's going to get you. I said, you're going to get into a fender bender, and I said, you're going to be exchanging insurance with a guy on Beverly Glen right
on the way home.
On the way home. But Jimmy, so you do. I mean, there's so many great things. I feel like we're all over.
I know.
Go ahead,
I
Sean.
love stories. I just love all your stories. The best stories. Tell me, just like Ted Danson wasn't supposed to get the part in Cheers, right? Like, who had it originally, and what was that story?
No. There was a final audition for the Diane and Sam in Cheers. There were 3 couples: Fred Dreyer, former Los Angeles Ram, and Julia Duffy.
She was funny.
Billy Devane and Lisa Eichhorn.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Ted and Shelley.
Bill Devane. Wow.
Bill Devane.
Yeah. Well, so they were all 3 different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were all completely different. Obviously, the best chemistry was Ted and Shelley. Although when we got up with the network after, 2 out of the 10 people wanted to hire Fred Dreyer because at that point, Sam Malone was a wide receiver for the Patriots. So we felt Freddie didn't have the comedic skills to do a full-on series, although we brought him back as Sam's friend. So the obvious choice were Ted and Shelley.
Was Tartikoff still running things, or was it Warren Littlefield by then?
No, it was Brandon. Yeah. Brandon, when we started at NBC, when we made a deal in 1961, Fred Silverman was running. 1981, Fred Silverman was running. By the time we came back with Cheers, Grant Tinker had taken over, and Brandon was there. And Grant hired me, at
He was the
MGM.
husband to Mary
Mary
Tyler Moore,
Tyler
yes.
Moore, yeah.
And you guys, the first season, you guys were like in the bottom of the ratings the first season. Is that right?
We were on Thanksgiving. There were 77 shows on the air. We were 77th.
Wow. That's crazy.
I mean, the fact that, by the way, at that time, there was so much pressure. If you didn't have a huge number, you'd get canceled. How did they just knew? I guess Brandon Tartikoff just knew that it was just going to take a minute.
Seinfeld had a similar start, yeah?
They had nothing else.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had nothing else. Plus, Brandon and Grant loved the show. The press loved the show.
Yeah.
And then in the summer of our first season, once the audience, our competition was Simon and Simon. And the lead into Simon and Simon was Magnum P.I. with Tommy Selleck. So everybody watched that show. So in the summer, when they reran our shows, people started to watch us because they had already seen Simon and Simon and Magnum.
Smart.
So we started to take off, and then a year after that, Cosby came in, and that was it.
Wow.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Noom, I want to thank you for your support. Hang on one second. I want to tell the audience about your incredible product. The most motivating reason to lose weight for me, it often has nothing to do with the numbers. It has to do with just the way I feel about myself, feeling positive, good self-image. You know, it sort of just affects everything in my life. It makes me happier, so less grouchy, and can be better company. It's real simple math. So listen, whatever your reason is for wanting to make a change, Noom Weight is ready to help. Noom Weight's psychology-based approach empowers you with the knowledge and support to build lasting results. Whatever your health goals are, the flexible, non-restrictive program focuses on progress instead of perfection, right? That's all we're looking for, a little bit of progress. Choose your level of support from 5-minute daily check-ins to personal coaching. Progress is not a straight line, and off days are totally okay. Noom Weight will help you get back on track. These folks sound great, guys. Now, there's more, guys. It's not just enough to be friendly and accommodating and helping you feeling good about yourself. Noom Weight has an app, okay? They've got quick daily lessons. They've got coaching. It's great for just flexibility. You just hit the app, you're in, you're going, because it's an all-day thing, trying to keep your eye on the prize, right? I get it. Everyone needs an app with this thing. Noom Weight has one. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom Weight's psychology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com/smartless. That's NOOM.com/smartless to sign up for your trial today.
Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. You know, a few ways I take care of my mental health and my mind is to be mindful, and I do guided therapy sometimes, and I also use real therapists. It really, really helps with calming my brain down from anxiety or just kind of giving me a baseline of level-headedness. You know, we often mistake being a strong person as adding on to our workload and adding on to our stress and adding on all of these things in life that actually bear down on your brain. And you always put your brain last, right? You always put ourselves second or third or last. And it's not how it should be. If you don't have your health, you don't have wealth, right? So how we care for our minds affects how we experience life. So it's important to invest time and care into keeping them healthy. There are plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps. There's also BetterHelp online therapy. My personal experience with therapy has only been positive. It's a way to kind of release all of that stuff I was talking about, put my mind first, really find a way to get level-headed and relax my anxiety. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat-only therapy sessions, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/smartless. That's betterhelp.com/smartless.
Hey, not sure if you know this, but I'm here to let you know we get support from GoodRx. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine, but when it comes to our actual prescription medication, there is nothing funny about overpaying. I'm not laughing. Especially now with summer starting, we'd all rather spend our hard-earned money having fun and enjoying a good laugh with family and friends, right? That's where checking GoodRx can help. With GoodRx, you compare prescription prices at local pharmacies and save up to 80%. Comparing prices is important because what a lot of people don't realize is that prescription prices can vary from one pharmacy to the next, sometimes by as much as $100. But with GoodRx, you'll have the information you need to help you find the lowest price. And remember, even if you have insurance, GoodRx could actually beat your prescription copay price. You can save money, you can beat your prescription copay. Sounds good to me. For simple, smart savings on your prescriptions, check GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/smartless. That's goodrx.com/smartless. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, Medicare and Medicaid. In 2021, GoodRx users saved 81% on retail prescription prices. Just saying.
And now back to the show.
Now, why do you think it is that there are so few multicam sitcoms on television today versus back then? I think at one point there were, I want to say there were like 50 multicam shows on between the four networks, and now there's 6,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the audience is still there. I mean, stuff is still funny. That format is still
And
entertaining.
why don't they give it a chance to stay on? Like they don't. It doesn't seem like they.
I have no idea. You know, I've attended the death of multi-camera sitcoms many times, but I'm afraid now, I don't know what's going on. CBS has 2 comedies on the air.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. They have Ghosts.
And that's single camera, isn't it?
Yeah, but they have Neighborhood, which is a multi-camera.
I just don't understand it. You know, I mean, I can understand how comedy's gone away in movies because they used to offset their costs with DVDs and VHS tapes. That whole market's gone away. But like in television, the business model of it, you would think would still support it.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
I have no idea.
I wonder if they just built it, they would come.
Yeah. Or keep it. Just keep it on.
Well, you need one hit.
But Chuck Lorre had a ton of great hits, and that didn't open up the floodgates either.
People don't want to laugh anymore, Jason. People like you have been flooding them with murdering and money laundering. You killed laughter in America, Jimmy. When you did
Single-handedly.
Jimmy, and also on the golf course, you're killing people everywhere.
Yeah.
Jimmy, so you mentioned you were on Mary Tyler Moore, and then you went and you met the Charles brothers when you were on Taxi. And Taxi was a cast that was also stacked.
Andy
with talent.
Kaufman, crazy.
I mean,
Unreal.
so I was going to get to Andy Kaufman. I remember one time you told me about working with Andy Kaufman, and when he had a deal. What was his deal? He was allowed to have what's his name, Tony
Clifton.
Tony Clifton
Yeah.
had to be on the show, right?
Okay, so explain to Tracy who Tony Clifton is.
Okay. So when I actually met the Charles brothers on the Phyllis show, so that's a little known fact. But anyway, on Taxi, Andy Kaufman was hired to play Latka the mechanic, but in his deal, they had to hire Tony Clifton, which was Andy's alter ego.
They had to hire his alter ego.
It's insane.
They had to hire his alter ego to do one episode of Taxi.
I mean, that's
Wait, did he have the juice to make us that kind of outrageous demand at the time? Who was he before you guys hired him?
He was the bravest comic I've ever seen in the world.
Yeah,
He never told a joke, ever.
right.
He would, his act, he would wrestle women.
right. I remember
That was one of his acts. He would come out, I saw him once come out, sit down in a chair and start reading Gone with the Wind until you laughed. He didn't care. It was 3 minutes.
It's very Will Forte.
It's crazy. So the deal was that Andy would put on the Tony Clifton suit, which was frilled shirt and a bespeckled sport coat, prosthetics on his cheeks, no prosthetics on his hands, which gave him away. Mm-hmm. And he was hired to play Louis De Palma's brother on an episode of Taxi.
Danny DeVito's character.
Danny DeVito's character.
Yeah.
And what? Okay.
So I come in that day, for the reading, and it's the day that Bucky Dent hit the home run for the Yankees to beat the Red Sox. And Tony Danza and I are in the prop room watching this game, and Andy had day night reversal. So when he would come to rehearsal, he would only come after 1 o'clock. So at 9 in the morning, we're watching this game, and in walks Andy. And he said, when are we going to? He's got the Tony Clifton persona.
As Tony
It's
Clifton.
not, it's, hey, guys, come on, when are we going to rehearse? So Tony and I look at one another. And so we go out, we start rehearsing, and he can't do it. He just, because he's Andy Kaufman playing Tony Clifton, playing Louis De Palma's brother.
Jesus.
So
My God.
It's a disaster.
It sounds exhausting.
But wait.
Did it end up making it in the show?
Wait. There's more. So he's got to get fired. So get this.
He's got to get fired. Because I call Ed Weinberger down. I say, you got to see the scene.
Oh, God.
So he comes down. He's got to get, we have to fire him.
You have to fire Tony Clifton.
Right.
We have to fire Tony Clifton. And then, so we call George Shapiro, Andy's manager. He says, Tony's not going to be happy. So Ed gets a call that we have to fire Tony/Andy the next day. And he wants to be fired in front of the entire cast with a prostitute on each knee.
If you're gonna fire me, you're gonna talk to them too.
So we come down the next day. There's a prostitute on each knee. Tony Danza has a camera, has an 8mm.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed comes down and he says, you're fired. And Tony says, I'm not leaving. Ed said, you're fired. He says, I'm not leaving. So meanwhile, I'm watching Tony filming, and I'm standing with Judd and Jeff Conaway. And Jeff Conaway says, I'm going out there, I'm going to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
And both of us, Tony and I, grab Conaway and say, just let this play out. just let this play out.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed says, you're fired. He says, I'm not going. And Judd says, okay, I'm going to play. So Judd goes out there and literally picks him up, takes him off the stage, and he's screaming, like this. And then we hire another actor, Richard Ferrange, to play Danny's brother. We shoot the show. The next week, Andy comes in as if nothing happened.
That's unbelievable.
Lord.
But that was him. He got his nachas that way. He got his thrills.
I know, but if it wasn't if it wasn't filmed, what's the payoff? It's just something he wanted to do. I mean,
Yes.
Sean, he kept a shift at Greenblatt's Deli while he was on the show.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
kidding.
true.
Yeah,
Really?
as a busboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jimmy, what was he like behind the cameras when you guys were? Did Andy ever just kind of get real with you and kind of let you in on the joke, or did he just kind of stay?
Never got in on the joke. Never did that. But there was the rap party after that at Ed's house at the end of the season when Andy showed up and Conaway was still mad. And so I said to Andy, come with me, follow me, we'll go to my house. So I went to my house and he had a date and I was married then. And I talked to him. He's a rich kid. He was a rich kid from Great Neck, Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, what goes on? He says,
What goes on?
yeah, he says, that's how I think. That's what I want to do. Wow. That was, if you ever saw his act, he had that mechanic suit on. He did, the Mighty Mouse theme.
Yeah.
Where he would lip sync. Here I come to save the day. He did that. He wrestled women. He was the best Elvis impersonator you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Didn't he get in a fight with Letterman once or something?
Yeah.
He may have.
There's a great documentary on him. It's incredible.
I know. Which one?
I'm not sure what it's called, but I saw one.
Not the Jim Carrey one, right? The Jim Carrey one?
No, that movie's incredible. But there's this documentary I saw, and I feel like that Ted Danza footage was in it somehow.
No, Tony never found it.
No? Well,
No.
something.
Wow.
There was some great stuff on the set of Taxi, though, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Jimmy, tell us why you wrote this book. What
Yeah.
what was? I'll bet you resisted for a long time. Somebody finally beat you down, and you told all these great stories. What do you hope the reader will get from it, aside from lots of laughter?
So you got my text to talk about the book?
Yeah.
No, but but I'm curious
No,
myself.
I can't wait to read it.
Well, the number one person who made me write the book was my wife, Debbie.
We love.
She said, you're sitting at home like a slouch. It's COVID. Put these stories down
Yeah.
in somewhere. So I called my agency, and they put me in touch with a literary guy, and who had just written the Mel Brooks book, a guy named Eddie Friedfeld, who's a big fan of comedy. And I started telling stories. And I have so many of them,
I know.
which is one of the reasons Deb made me write the book. I just, she said, you got to get those stories out there.
Did you start remembering stories that you didn't even know were still in your head? I'll bet so. Yeah.
They start triggering other things,
Yeah.
Once you tell a story, and then you remember a story, and then you think of a person, you remember stuff. And so it's, it became a little bit about me growing up, and a little bit about my dad, mostly about the shows I've done and the incredible amount of fun I've had working with actors, especially like you guys.
Well, you've put all these great characters in people's living rooms for so many years to the point where they kind of have become family members for so many people around the world, not just in America. So I bet it would be fascinating for these people to actually basically learn the birth story of all of these favorite family members.
By the way,
that they
I
have,
want to learn about. I can't wait to.
Well, yeah, we all like everybody out there. We all have relationships with these shows, and for us, it triggers emotions of that time in our life. Cheers, because it was on for nearly a decade.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of my grandmother who watched every episode of Cheers. It reminds me of my buddies. It reminds me of us when we were teenagers and quoting it on Friday morning after a Thursday night, and it was some great thing, and it played such a huge life. I quote all the time one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a television program or a movie ever. It just always makes me laugh, is that scene where Diane says, Shelley Long goes, "I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. This is the last you'll ever see of Diane." And she walks out, right? So everyone's like, huh, and they're kind of stunned. And then all of a sudden the door cracks open just a little bit, and you see her hand come in, and she's reaching for the coat rack because she forgot her coat. And Rhea Perlman, Carla, she notices that this is happening, so she's standing next to the coat rack. So then she just pulls the coat rack just out of reach of the hand till finally the point Diane comes in because she's got to get her coat. She steps back inside to grab her coat, at which point Carla goes, "Hey, everybody, look, it's Diane." To me, it's like such a
so
perfect
funny.
comedy moment. I talk about it all the time,
So
Jimmy.
clean.
Oh, God.
Me too.
How often do you talk to those folks anymore? Really, any of the cast members from any of these shows, any of these careers you've made, aside from us three idiots, how often do you get to visit with some of these great folks?
I see Jen,
Yep.
frequently. Well, I don't frequently, for her frequently, twice a year.
Yeah.
And I see Schwimmer when I can,
Yeah.
and LeBlanc, and Teddy, and
Teddy Danson.
They're all such great people too. I mean, I'll bet working with you helped shape, because a lot of these people found enormous success and careers under your tutelage. They're very lucky. I count myself as one of these people, although my career was stumbling for many years. But being able to
and still
work,
is.
being able to work with and for somebody like you who had just such an ease with so many people, made it seem so fun, so comfortable.
Yeah.
Kept us from having our heads blow up or I mean, the greatest note you ever gave me was, stop pushing, I could have just, taken
Dying for you to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Yeah, to jump on that, Jimmy, I've always said to you that, you're such a father figure to me. I don't know if you heard, I never had one. But I've learned.
You did.
No,
and
you
then
did have
then
one. He just ran away. He
put
took
the
off.
car in gear and just
Once he got
hit
to
it.
know you, he split.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy's the dad that stayed. But I've learned so much from you over the years, not only about comedy, obviously, but about the business, about storytelling, about relationships, about communication, about finances, about respect, and so many other things. And I never had that in my whole
being
life.
a good leader on set too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I remember, Jimmy, you don't remember this probably, but the first time I ever actually met you, I was with Jason. We were in New York. You were there for the upfronts. And we stopped on the street. We were on Fifth Avenue. We were talking for a second, and then we said, all right, see you later. And I said to you, all right, cheers. Just as like a sort of like, you use the term cheers.
Typical Canadian.
Jimmy, you walked away. And Jason was paused there with that look, that Bateman look on his face, kind of similar to his face right now. And he just goes, fucking cheers, man, to Jimmy Burrows. What are you, an idiot? And I go, I didn't even. I swear to God, totally
We'd always
true.
We'd always go.
Totally true.
We'd always, if we were at a dinner, we'd always have our glasses with Jimmy and whatever it was. Somebody inevitably would go cheers, and he'd go Will and Grace.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
to
it.
friends, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, Jimmy, thank you for being here, my dear. You're very sweet to join
well,
us.
three of my favorite people.
You're our
You know,
favorite.
Jimmy,
You know,
we love you.
Love you so much.
We love you too.
I
Love you,
still
pal.
have my favorite photograph I have in my house is just you taking at some wedding somewhere. You're just looking right into camera, no expression, no nothing, just a big white finger, middle finger,
Right
right,
there.
up at the camera.
Can you see
Yeah.
it right
Oh
there?
yeah, there it is. Yeah, That's
It was
just
Amy
so good.
Pete's wedding.
That's right. That's right. Caroline in the City. Another
Yes.
baby you born.
Wait. I've also got to it just reminded me of this, Jimmy. The greatest direction I've ever heard you give anybody. We were rehearsing a scene once, and you said to somebody as we're moving from one scene over to the next scene, you're wheeling your podium, and you go to this person, you go, hey, clearer on the lines. And they said, which ones? And you said, all of them.
One of the pieces of directions I got one time, Jimmy was really sick one week, like really sick, and you still showed up to work and you were still working. And I was like being my annoying self. And I was like, Jimmy, I think it's funnier if I do, if I jump on the couch here and I go, what do you think if I just ran over here and then exit the door? And you said, honey, I don't care. And I ended up doing some stupid shit. And then you were better. You got better like the next day or 2 days after. You're like, what are you doing?
The best, when I was doing Mike and Molly, I had a scene with Melissa
McCarthy.
and Billy and Reno. And Billy and Reno were on either side of Melissa, and Melissa was listening. And the dialogue wasn't making any sense to the character of Molly. So I said, why don't you kind of get up and walk away? They probably won't even notice. And so she did. And then in the run through, the writers said, we would rather have her at the table. So I said, okay. And Melissa said, well, what should I do? I said, walk away in your mind.
I'll bet she did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did. And she sent me a blanket with walk away in your mind written embroidered.
Walk away.
That's hysterical.
Jimmy, you're the king. You're the
No,
king.
you guys are the king.
Jimmy Burrows, thank you. We love you, pal.
Love you so much.
We love you.
Give Deb a big hug, please,
Yeah,
too.
big
love
hug
you.
to Debbie. Mwah, mwah,
right.
mwah, mwah.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for doing
You
this.
can slam your laptop shut if you want.
No.
Okay.
Sean, what a...
Isn't that great? I was
just
so
love
excited
him.
because I knew you guys would be so thrilled, and we all know him and love him. And you had no idea that he was
No
coming
idea.
on?
No idea.
No, how would we have
You know what's
any
funny? I
idea?
just got the email today, too, right about his book, about the book party.
Right,
Yes.
right.
For his book. And so I was just looking at it when I got home right before we started doing the podcast today. I was looking at it. I was just reading the email before I got on, and we started talking about Jason before he got on.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, the book's coming out, and I'm so happy. And Jimmy and I miss him. And then
Yeah.
there he is.
I just
And
love
there he
that
is,
man
yeah.
so
Me
much.
too.
I wanted to be Jimmy Burrows so bad.
You still
And
can.
I was on my way. I was trying so hard. I was shadowing him. I was watching him direct.
Do you remember when we did when I came on to guest on Will and Grace, and I was staying, Jason, at your old house, and I stayed with you and Amanda. And by the way, I never thanked you. Thank you. It was a while ago. No. It's never too late to say thanks. And but I went, and when I rehearsed all week, and then tape night, you came to the tape night, and you stood down on the floor with Jimmy, and you shadowed him.
Yeah.
While we were doing the taping. Do you remember that, Sean?
that.
Yeah.
I absolutely remember that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I wanted it so bad, and then acting got in the way, and here I am.
Like always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man. Everything I know about this business is because of him, basically.
Think about the show. Like he rattles them off. So we go, Mary Tyler Moore, Taxi, then every episode of Cheers, Frasier, every episode
Friends.
of Will and Grace, does the pilots of Friends and a bunch of the first season.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm missing.
No, kid, you're right. Keep going. Big Bang Theory, Two and a Half Men.
Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, blah, 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 blah.
Just
All
goes on
these
and
great sitcoms, multi-camera shows.
Yeah.
He directed the pilot, and a lot of them he directed every episode.
I know. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Where the hell is that format now? I still don't get it.
I think we talked about it. I think it's because networks don't bet on you have to bet on one to keep it on, like they did with Cheers, like they did with a lot of shows. Or Seinfeld, right? You just have to like pick one, guys, at any of the networks that you like and keep it on the air no matter what.
Let me ask you this too. Do you think that there aren't as many multicam writers out there who are interested in doing that? Do you think that that's a kind of a dying art in that way?
I bet a lot of them have definitely gotten rusty, probably. But I mean, I think it's. I'm not saying that it's an easy thing to do because it's not. But there is a formula to it. I mean, it is set up, joke, and you get a great group of people together in a room. You can find a rhythm. I mean, I don't think that's. I think that the networks are just feeling like the audiences wouldn't watch, and I would say that
if it was good, I would watch the fuck out of it.
But I mean, even if
right?
it isn't good, I think just people's attention spans are even smaller now than they were back then. Like, never more have you needed something that's only 22 minutes long. You know?
Right.
And that you don't have to pay too much attention to, that you can just kind of listen, like he said, like the radio, the rhythm of it. You can have it playing, as people say, like, I like a show that's just kind of playing in the background.
Yeah.
These are perfect. Well, I know the three of us, we've talked about doing it in the past. We can say that.
Right.
And we keep going like
about,
what is it, about every 3 months, the three of us look at each other and go, let's do a multicam, right?
Yeah.
And then we're like, no,
we're going to
America.
sidebar after this and do another one.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
Well, what if it wasn't on every week? What if it was on every other week? What would that be
Here it
called?
comes.
Here's
Here
the
it
new
comes.
pitch.
It would be bi-weekly.
Smart. Less.
SmartLess is 100% organic and artisanally handcrafted by Michael Grant Terry, Rob Armjarv, and Bennett Barbaco.
Smart. Less.